Good afternoon. It is a little after 6 p.m. and we do have a quorum. I'm going to go ahead and proceed to call this evening's meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals for the City of Florence to order. First item on this evening's agenda is approval of the minutes from the November 16th, 2023 meeting. City staff has sent these minutes to members of the board with ample time for review. Are there any amendments or addendums to this to these minutes stated? There being none, the chair would entertain a motion to either approve or disapprove.
I make the motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Thank you, and we do have a second, so we're ahead of it. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. These minutes stated on November 16th, 2023 are approved. The third item on this evening's agenda is approval of the 2024 meeting calendar. These dates are stated on our first page. The chair would now entertain a motion to either approve or disapprove the calendar dates set for 2024.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a, thank you, Mr. Charles, and we have a second. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. The fourth item on this evening's agenda for the Board of Zoning Appeals for the City of Florence would be a public hearing and matter in the position for action with BZA-2024-01. This is a request for a variance from the size and height requirements from an accessory structure located at 918 Wisteria Drive in the NC-15 zoning district, identified as tax map number 90-066-06-022, and the owner of record will be a Frank Ellington. The applicant will be a Mike Pageant with M Pageant Engineering and Construction LLC. The zoning district will be listed as Neighborhood Conservation-15 NC-15. The board will now hear from city staff.
Good evening and Happy New Year. Thank you all for coming out on this rainy night. This parcel is located on Wisteria Drive, just east of Wentworth Drive. Here's a closer up shot of it. It's a very narrow, deep parcel, as you can see. The zoning map presents it as being NC-15, which is a single-family detached housing use, and with open space in the rear, and that is because of the floodplain, which is in the rear. And the future land use map has it again as residential, and then with parks and open space in the rear. This is the site layout of the house. The dark black line at the bottom indicates the limits of the 100-year floodplain, and any structure has to be out of that floodplain. So that's part of the reason why this building has been placed where it is. And as you can see, it's behind the house, about 17 feet from the side property line, which is well in accordance with the requirements for accessory buildings, which would be 10 feet. Here's a more close-up look at it. So there's no problem with the location of it, but where comes a little bit of an issue where what they need the variance for is for the size, because typically carports are located on the house. This one is located as part of the accessory structure, and then there's also a covered porch as well as the pool house itself, and all those being combined made the size of the accessory building much larger than would have been approved. These are some elevations of it. As you can see, not all of it is enclosed with the carport and the covered porch. Again, it is behind the house. This is the floor plan of it. These are all in your packet as well. These are some site photos. As you can see, it would not really be visible from the street. I've only had one phone call from a neighbor because this was posted. She just wanted to know where exactly the building, what the request was for, and then where the building would be going. And once I told her it'd be behind the house, would not be particularly visible from the right-of-way, she didn't seem to have an issue with it. Plus, the lot is heavily wooded, and because no construction can take place in that floodplain, it is pretty well screened on all sides. So that concludes, oh, that doesn't conclude, sorry. So the findings of fact for the variance, adhering to the terms of the ordinance would just prevent him from being able to construct the size accessory structure that he wanted to. The intent of the ordinance is to control the size of accessory buildings, but the size of the lot and the house, as well as the wooded character of the lot, will mitigate the effects of the size, height, and location of this structure. Because it is in the rear of a large lot behind the house, it's not visible from the right-of-way. Most lots in this neighborhood are also deep and wooded with topographical change, which would also help further screen this structure from other houses. And adherence to the terms of the ordinance would, again, prevent him from being able to build the structure he wants. But because of the shape of the lot and the location of the house, granting this variance will not affect the character of the street or introduce a new use to the neighborhood. So that concludes staff's report.
Thank you, Lane. Are there any questions for city staff from the members of the board at this moment?
Do you know if this, where this property lands, is it a HOA? Do they have any?
I don't believe they do. And the applicant is present in case you have any questions for them.
Are there any safety risks?
No, sir.
The only two variants, the request they're asking for is the size, the height of the entire structure for the roof.
That's right, the height, only because carports are not supposed to be taller than 16 feet. This one is the same height as the pool house, which is 19 and a half.
So they need a variance of 3 feet for the height of the roof, it being a detached unit,
Correct.
and the size.
Well, the height of the unit is fine. It's just because the carport's attached to the accessory structure instead of separate from, like, the typical carport is just a freestanding structure, and those aren't allowed to be more than 16 feet. And I don't think they make them more than 16 generally. But because it's attached to the accessory structure, which can go up to 20 feet, that just necessitates that.
And this particular structure, I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead.
This particular structure is 19 feet,
19 and a half, yes.
19 and a half. Thank you.
Do we know why that variance is like that, where it has to be the 19? Is there a reason? why?
The height of the accessory building's fine. The only reason, and it's not even, if we consider the carport part of the accessory structure, that really doesn't matter. We're just, if we call it a carport, we just want to dot all our I's and
got
cross
you.
the T's.
All right.
There was a mention of one caller calling in from local, I guess, the neighborhood.
From a neighbor,
yes.
yes.
From a particular neighbor. And it was more informational. There
That's
wasn't any
correct.
formal complaints or
No.
once you,
She just wanted to know what the variance was for, which is a valid question.
and you made a mention, once you mentioned it was in the very rear of the property and it's heavily wooded back there. She was calling for informational purposes.
Correct. Yeah, I sent her a copy of the staff report and didn't hear back from her.
Oh, fantastic. The staff report that we have as well, so
That's
she
it,
could see it
yes.
very aerial and she can make an informed decision.
Exactly.
Thank you.
To clear up something from the, on the report, it says the house is located too close to the side property line to accommodate a double carport while allowing access to the rear of the lot. So this is like just a single carport, this is just,
No, it's a double carport. If you look at the site plan, the house is roughly, I think, 19 feet from the side property line on the right side. And that, the carport width is about 26 feet wide. And the side setback for this district is 10 feet. So there's no way that with the size of the house, having only about 19 feet to the property line, that you could fit a 26 wide plus a 10-foot setback.
Okay, none of this will be viewed from the street.
That's correct.
You mentioned the structure was, you said 19 feet, and you initially said 17 feet. And looking at the map, it looks like it's 17 feet on that, on the portion away from the.
The accessory structure is 17 feet. The house itself is roughly 19.
So the side setback from the border on the what's that, the easternmost side, that's 17 feet and 19 feet from the house.
The house is 19 feet from the side property line.
And the structure itself, the one,
The structure is about 17 feet.
is about 17. That's the one I wrote down that's from the border, 19 from the house. Thank you. Is there any other questions from members of the board for the city staff at this moment? Thank you so very much. There being no other questions, the board will now hear from the applicant. Okay, sir, come on up and speak your name and be sworn in, and we'll take it from there. Thank you for showing up tonight.
No problem. My name's Mike Paget. I'm
Let me swear you in, please, Mr. Paget. If you would be sworn in, this is a semi-legal hearing, so I'm just going to swear you in. We'll hear your testimony. Do you promise that the testimony you're about to give us is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, Mr. Paget. You may proceed with your testimony.
Elaine did a really good job presenting everything, so I'm really here to just answer questions for you. Is there any further questions on this for us? Anybody?
I can, the board, we can anybody have any questions for the applicant from members of the board tonight?
It is.
The property owners and the contractor are here as well, but
We had a board member ask the city staff, which y'all would be more informed. Is there an HOA for the neighborhood?
There is not.
There
The
is
house was
not.
built in the 50s. The neighborhood does not have an HOA. It was pre-HOA world.
Is that a certain date? When you say pre-HOA world, is there a certain date?
That part of they were not doing HOAs back then. I do a lot of house plans and stuff in town. I know that part of the world that part of town doesn't have an HOA.
So currently there's no HOA?
No.
Okay. And your short is being built and constructed within that flood?
Yes, ma'am. We had surveyors stake the flood line showing where the 100-year flood zone is, the dark line on the bottom of the plat. So the house, the accessory structure would be just off of that.
Okay, and as time goes on and as, property settles, there should still be no problem with
No,
it?
they'll do a foundation pad that would keep it from moving, yes.
Is there actually standing water in the rear of that?
I mean, if you go to the back of the very, very back of the lot, you can certainly see water after a good rain. Absolutely.
And that 500 foot water plane, that actually, did that suffice during the last one we had?
They have never seen, and John, correct me, we've never seen water as high as that line, right? No.
Oh, even that last one,
Right.
they
No.
wanted to change it to 200 years now, so the
That's-
500 years.
That's correct. It's above,
that's
we've
all.
never seen it that, yep.
That's a great indicator.
I
Now,
think
Wisteria, is that Jeffries?
That's Jeffers Creek.
Jeffers
That's
Creek.
correct. Yep.
Okay.
If you weren't in city limits, you'd probably be hunting ducks back there.
Ah, thank you, sir. Is there any other questions for the applicant from members of the board? Okay, there being none, thank you so much
Okay.
for your testimony. You may step down. Is there anybody else tonight who would like to be heard in regards to this case? The owners or Anybody else?
We're here for questions if you have any.
Okay, all right. Well, is there any questions from members of the board that we may call them up? I'm good. Have them sworn up? Okay, there being no other questions for the applicant or city staff, from members of the board, the chair would like to entertain a motion to either approve or deny.
I move that we grant the request for a variance based on the following findings of fact. That a variance from the terms of the Unified Development Ordinance will not be contrary to the public interest when, because of special conditions or literal enforcement of the provision will, in this individual case, result in an unnecessary hardship, and that adherence to the terms of the ordinance would result in the inability of the owner to construct the accessory structure that he desires. That the spirit of the Unified Development Ordinance will be, and the lot is wooded along the sides and rear. That these conditions do not generally apply to the other property in the vicinity. In that most lots in the neighborhood are also deep and wooded with topographical changes. That because of these conditions, the application of the Unified Development Ordinance to the particular piece of property that would effectively prohibit it or unreasonably restrict utilization of property by adherence to the terms of the ordinance would result.
We have multiple seconds, so all those in favor, we have a second for on record.
Miriam.
Mir. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. This variance request is approved. And thank y'all so very much. Y'all's part here is done. Y'all more than welcome to sit through the rest of the proceeding. But we sure appreciate y'all's application and your attendance. Thank y'all for our attendance. Okay, next item on this evening's agenda.
Adjournment.
We'll move, the next items on this evening's agenda will be well, first off, is there any updates from city staff?
No, there's not.
Okay, there's nothing special other than our special calendar that we have in front of us to
That's
look
correct.
forward to for the next calendar year.
Yep.
Okay, well, the chair would now entertain the motion to adjourn.
move. Second.
We have a move to adjourn and as well as a second. This meeting, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. This meeting is adjourned. Thank y'all
Thank
for
you.
attending.